kind of segues perfect into our next topic, and it's the
Nice.
Pistons are considering to be buyers at the trading deadline. Now, this is like completely different from like what we heard from Trajan to start
Yep.
the season, saying like we want to run up cap space. If give us some draft picks, we might do that. Do you think it's a good idea for them to be buyers currently where they're at?
So I on one of Jack's post game shows earlier in the year, this might have been first 15, 20 games. I remember saying like the way they're playing and I've been wrong before where I'm like, oh, this looks I mean, look at the beginning of last season. We're all like, first 3 games, this looks different. And then, history happens. So I've been wrong plenty of times. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, this feels a little different because it feels like your young guys are taking that step right now. You have vets who have proven track records who, in my opinion, fit pretty perfectly. And if I said, like, if they keep this trajectory, like, I think you really consider taking that swing. If you're going to lose the pick this year, which, knock on wood, looks like they're going to finally and be done with this pick situation, because they should hopefully fall outside the lottery at this trajectory. But I think it's like Cade has taken that step. He is that guy. And obviously, he has more potential to reach and such, but like this was the season you can look at him and be like, he's an all-star. I mean, whether he makes the team or not, I think he should. That's a different conversation. But like, he is undisputedly putting up all-star numbers, affecting winning, which he hasn't done in his career because he's had terrible teams. So I think it's something where he's taken that step. You still have some pretty glaring flaws. And they're over 500, almost 40 games into the season, with some, in my opinion, some very upgradable positions in the starting lineup specifically. And I think if you can get a piece, I don't have names off the top of my head who I would be really excited about like spending assets to get. But if you can get pieces to upgrade the Tobias spot, I'm not ready to give up on Jalen Duren. I know a lot of Pistons fans, I get it. The defense hasn't been consistent all year. But if you can get either a very defensive-minded 5 or a stretch 5, that's another option. I mean, Asar's finally, the minutes limit seems to be off. And, he's impacting the game a lot. And Ron's been playing a lot better recently. I think it's time. Like I was saying even last summer before I knew how upgraded we were going to be, I'm like, we've had enough first round picks. Like we just have, or enough lottery picks. Like, I mean, you can never have enough like late first round picks, but it's time. It's time to take a swing. That's why I was so upset about not being able to get our protected first back, because that handcuffs you a lot in terms of how many picks you're able to give up. And a lot of people are like, we're in a rebuild. We shouldn't be giving up picks. And I'm like, I get it, but we're 5 years in now. Just drafting first round over and over again in the lottery just hasn't. I mean, obviously it's playing out now, but every time you do that, you're essentially adding years on the back end of the rebuild because you're doubling down on youth. I think the time for that has passed. Personally speaking, I thought it had passed, maybe a year or two ago. I think it's time. And maybe the perfect deal isn't out there this summer or this trade deadline. Don't force it, for sure. Like I don't want to like. I'm also not saying like go trade like Ivy and Duren for like a Zach LaVine type player, right? Like I'm talking about. I mean, I hope that's obvious that we shouldn't do something like that. But I'm not talking about getting rid of your future for vets who are sort of, maybe aging a bit and aren't really going to be able to grow with your core. But if there's a player in their prime or approaching their prime, I think it's time to take the swing.
I think so too. Just where they're at, like Trajan said, like I didn't expect them to be this good this soon.
Yeah.
And when your own president of basketball operations is having an interview with FanDuel and saying like, yeah, like we're way ahead of schedule, that tells me like if they suck this year and they had like, let's just say they won 25 games this season.
Yep.
You'd be like, that's a 10-game improvement. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And I'll see what pieces I need to add. I think the three veterans, Tobias, THJ, and Malik Beasley, have had such an impact on this young group where they're learning how to win basketball games. They're learning how to close basketball games.
Yep.
They're gaining confidence. And I saw a lot of people, as soon as Cooper Flagg went off against Notre Dame, saying like, man, like, what are we doing? Like, we should try to, to sell off at the deadline, sell off all our veterans, and, give us a chance.
Do we not remember Wemby?
Exactly.
Sir?
You had 3 straight years of getting shafted, getting the 5th pick, right?
Yeah.
And there are some Pistons fans that are really loud out there right now. Even though they're winning, they're like I want Cooper Flagg on my basketball team. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? He's a great player.
I want Cooper Flagg on my basketball team.
He's probably going to be the first overall pick this year. He's probably going to Utah because it just makes sense.
Sure, right. Like San Antonio made sense for Wemby. Everybody kind of knew before the lottery. You're like, it's going to be the Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be the Wizards. There's no way. There's no way that they're going to get,
I hope not.
Back-to-back talents like that. But
yeah,
and I'm kind of like going down the rabbit hole a little bit. I think if you're the Pistons and you're Trajan, I think going for a move and being buyers has more value than a late lottery pick right now.
Agreed.
The players in this draft, I think in the top 5, they can definitely help and change your franchise.
Sure. But
where the Pistons are at right now, they will probably surrender their draft pick to the Timberwolves, and it looks like they need it more than the Detroit Pistons need a draft pick.
Right, honestly.
They look terrible.
For cheap talent, too.
Yeah. My thing is, like, I don't think Trajan has to go out and, like, make a home run swing. I'm going to throw you a name.
All right.
And let me know what you think. DeAndre Hunter.
Oh, I have been screaming for DeAndre Hunter and John Collins for the last 3 years that the rumors have been like, oh, the Hawks are just trying to give them away because they don't want to pay their contracts. I'm like, well, if they're free or really cheap, like John Collins was, I'm in. And obviously now his value is going to be higher because we didn't take that swing that, in hindsight would have paid off. But yeah, I think Hunter is that Tobias upgrade. I don't think he's a home run swing.
Yeah.
But he's someone who will grow with your core. I mean, look, Tobias is what he is at this point, and obviously he's had some disappointing stretches, but like lately he's actually been better. But I mean, DeAndre Hunter, I think, slides right in, replaces Tobias, and grows with your core. Mm-hmm. And if you need to upgrade that in the future, you can. But that's an upgrade right now. I think it's a perfect fit. I've been crying for DeAndre Hunter for years.
Well, the way I view it is like Tim Hardaway Jr. has played small forward for a majority of this year. Obviously, he's not a small forward, but the way JB and the Pistons view it is we want as much perimeter spacing for Kane so we can operate in the lane so it's not clogged.
Yes.
Which I think from a coaching perspective makes so much sense.
Yeah.
You could plug a DeAndre Hunter in at small forward.
Sure.
And still have Tobias at power forward and Duran out there.
Yeah.
Like having a Hunter and a Tobias as your 3-4, I think adds a lot of value. Obviously with him does come a contract that's a little bit up there. The injury history is the injury history. But I think those are the type of moves that I'm looking for with Trajan and the Pistons. I don't need them to go out and go star hunting. I just don't. I mean, you look at all the great Detroit Pistons teams, like have they ever really gone out star hunting? Like outside of maybe Rasheed Wallace?
No.
It's always like those B- players that, maybe like an all-star some year, but they play team basketball. And I think that's what you're looking for if you're Trajan. You're looking for another piece to help this team. I know some people have been screaming for a secondary ball handler, backup point guard.
Yeah,
which I get because when Cade goes to the bench, it looks really bad.
Yeah.
But those are the type of players that I'm looking at, like a DeAndre Hunter. I know someone had mentioned Cam Johnson, which I think Cam's a little bit too pricey for the Pistons because Brooklyn wants like 2 firsts for Cam. Don't know if they'll get 2 firsts, but I don't think Cam Johnson is like really on their radar. But I think like other players like that, maybe like a B- to a C+, entry level starter could really just help propel this team of getting more wins. I mean, like we saw what Anthony Tolliver did with the Pistons.
Tolliver Vect, baby.
Yeah,
that was fun.
You don't really have to like go out and break the bank to get someone to help your team win basketball games at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, no, I totally agree. My only disagreement is I would like Asar starting sort of from here on out, just to make sure that I mean, Asar is a game changer, especially as the shot keeps getting better. Same with Ron Holland. But yeah, so I would prefer to start Asar at the 3. But no, I get it. I mean, a Tobias DeAndre Hunter 3-4 combo would be very interesting offensively and theoretically take some pressure off Cade. Yeah, I think I mean Cam Johnson obviously would be a seamless fit. My concerns with him, last summer or 2 summers ago when he was a free agent, injury history definitely, a concern. He's played more games this year, but yeah, I think the asking price is too high. Yeah, I mean, the other option is just ride it out. And maybe you still do absorb some salary like the original plan was, like, but it has to be for a playable guy, not a Joe Harris. It's got to be for another THJ. I mean, Boyan, when we got him originally, I don't hate that approach, even though like I would love to upgrade this team. And like I said, like there's some very clear upgradable spots. I mean, the 3 through 5 potentially you can upgrade on this team realistically. So I think, but I also think it's like you wait for the right deal. I don't think you need to take it. Like they're playing well right now, and this is something I think you bring to the deadline. Like unless like something great pops up right away. But it's something where it's like, yeah, I don't think you rush to get the right deal because I think you realistically with your assets, you kind of get one swing if you're going to take a swing, not necessarily the safer upgrades, but like if you're going to take a swing because of the assets we actually have, you probably get one of those. So I don't need to rush that. But I'm very open to it, and I'm very open to part with assets, assuming it's for that swing.
Yeah, I think when people see buyers, they think that the Pistons are just going to trade like all of their young guys and just go get that star.